Welcome to Business Mastery with Dawn Kennedy, your quick under 45-minute dose of expert insights and strategies to make a positive impact on your business and life. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. Today, we're talking about letting go a little bit and being a little flexible and not being so rigid in things, particularly when it comes to your marketing. So I have Todd on here. We're going to be talking about all things, thinking a different way about how you're approaching your customers. So thanks so much for being here.
Dawn, I love being here.
All right. Can you tell everyone who you are and who you serve?
Yes, Todd Schuchart, and right now we are specializing in the life insurance space.
And who do you serve? Small businesses, individuals?
Oh, yeah, great question. So, we work with independent life insurance agents, so small business owners. And I've done in my career, I've worked with, I don't think there's a business segment or niche out there that I haven't run ads for at one point in my existence. So
Amazing. Amazing. Okay. So when you and I were designing this episode, you were talking about how kind of the overriding approach for you, especially in marketing running ads, is to be water. Can you explain that?
yeah, it's interesting. We start our ad campaigns or our product offering or our mission, right? We're very determined, entrepreneurs put on the blinders and just pile through. And what if your idea missed the mark?
Mm,
What if your ad copy isn't connecting? What if your product offering is really just lackluster to the niche that you're trying to serve? What do? Do you double down and put the blinders on even tighter and put on a helmet and go crashing into walls? No, because you're going to find yourself out of business real fast.
right.
So, the water thing it's about being fluid, being able to move, right? So what we do is, and you think after doing this as long as we have, we'd have all the answers. And I think the only answer is this. You build what you're trying to do initially with great intent, and then you launch it into the world and you check your ego and you shut the hell up and you listen.
Right.
And your people that you're trying to serve are going to tell you what you're missing and what you need to adjust. So many times I've run into and usually if I find an entrepreneur finds me, it's that they're on their last leg. Right? Like I got $2 left to my name. I haven't made my mortgage payment in 6 months. I'm about to be homeless. Save me.
Right.
$1 short and a day late, buddy, right? It's why weren't you listening to your audience before? It's kind of, I think the internet has taught us that all of life is optimization. I don't care what you're doing, right? If it's a relationship in your personal life and it's not going the way you want it, you optimize, right? We get rid of that person and we go, here's what I liked, here's what I don't want anymore. And when we look at the next person, we're paying hyper-focused attention on, are these flags for us? It's the same with everything else that we do, our marketing, our product offering, our sales presentations, our cold calling, how we service and talk to our clients. It's all the same, right? So it all requires a level of optimization, which means we need to not be so damn married to that, what could be an anchor, right? that we created and spend ourselves out of business. It's I see it so much, and really it's just that. It's, you've got to have some fluidity to what you're doing and understand that you don't really, if you're trying to truly serve your niche will tell you what you need to do. You just have to be present to listen.
Right. And I think most people would say that for just about any product or service, there's going to be a buyer. I can think of very few things, even I always go back to the Snoop on the stoop, elf on the shelf kind of thing, where they sold like hundreds of thousands of copies of Snoop on the stoop. Maybe only buy it once, right? It's not going to be like a huge repeat business, but there's a market.
Right there.
Do you have Snoop on the stoop? I love it. Okay, so perfect. Absolutely perfect. Evidence-based. So So it's the idea, that it may be like you said, it's maybe the wrong niche or the wrong audience for what you're doing. Maybe you're not doing anything wrong, but I think that we have come to this place as entrepreneurs where we equate things like, well, if I'm not selling, I sell harder because I couldn't possibly have picked the wrong people. Like that's why I developed this. I developed it for these people. So I'd love to explore that a little bit with you about, again, checking your ego at the door and how do you know that you're in the right place? Is it sales based only, or is there just a fundamental, maybe, like you said, maybe the copy is not connecting, or maybe you haven't been out in the marketplace long enough, right? People need to see things so many times. And one thing I think the internet has done is made it so that people don't see it once or twice and purchase. They have to see it 35 times because they're inundated with ads now. So, can we talk a little bit sort of about, you know, like you were saying, being water, testing things, and maybe it is just we're not talking to the right people. Maybe there's really nothing wrong with what we're trying to do.
You know what? You're right. That absolutely is a position to optimize from, right? Maybe your audience segment is wrong. So we test in a very rigid way. So the first things we do, and I know that goes against water, but we test first for message,
Okay.
right? So we're going to dial in our message. Now the message consists of three major parts. The first is your headline or your hook. The second is your body copy. What's your messaging, right? Is it pain and relief related? And the third and final in every single message is your call to action. What do you need them to do?
Right.
Right? So in the messaging alone, you now have three optimization opportunities outside of what you're using for either a visual, whether that's a static ad or a video. When you're in a static ad situation, there's simple things like color overlays. Like a transparent cover overlay. I did one once where I ran some ads. I had the same graphic, and I had a green one, a blue one, an orange one, a red one, and a like pinkish one. And I thought for sure the blue was going to crush it, and the orange blew it out of the water.
Huh.
And it was interesting. It was just that one little thing. Everything else was the same, but the orange color stopped the scroll and got people to participate in the creative. So, creative and dialing that in, it takes a second. So don't spend all your money on your first round. Understand that you're going to burn some cash dialing in those pieces. Then we have to find audience, right? And we've got to find audience segments that are going to resonate with what we're doing at a cost that makes sense for us to do it. So once we've got some messaging dialed in, we start to look for audience segments. The audience quest and the creative quest never end. As soon as you find one, you scale, and then you start the process of finding another, because at some point, there's a really great graphic that's so simple to do. Ad platforms, and I don't want to get too far off, but that's your audience inside of an ad platform, that circle.
Right.
They typically will feed your ads to that much of the ads of the audience in that circle. Your job as a marketer is to find out how to get into the rest of the audience. And if that single message isn't doing it, which it won't, then you need to play inside of that space so you can tap into the whole piece. So you're always looking for audience, and you're always looking for that creative. Some audiences will now here's the this gets deep and fast, right? So the other part to this is cost of acquisition.
Mhm.
So what is your cost to acquire? Not what is your cost per lead? So many times we look at the front end of campaigns, people, especially if you're new, you're looking at the front end of a marketing effort going, okay, that leads $50. This one's 4. I want the one that's 4. But if you're not paying attention to the conversion on the other side, what did it cost you to acquire that customer? Maybe you're closing 1 and 2 out of 50 on the $50 deals, which means your cost to acquire is $100. It might take you 100 leads at $4 to get the same customer. You just 4x your cost to acquire because you're looking at the wrong number,
Right.
right? And again, it goes back to ego. Well, I know that cheaper leads are better. Not we find that usually that's not true. It typically, and for some people it may be, but there's always going to be a trade. It's a trade between that costs less money, but I had to put more hours in.
Right.
I can make more money, I can't make more time. So give me the ones that are the fastest path for me. So I think that it's a very broad question, and I'm sorry that I've tangented that, but
No,
I
that's
feel like
great information
there's
because I do think a lot of people are like, "This is my ad spend for the month. This is my budgeted spend. This is what I have for my marketing dollars," and do the best you can with what's in this little slice of the pie, without looking at, the actual end result, the number of conversions, or looking at, like you said, maybe it's the wrong audience. Maybe we do need to tweak our audience. Maybe we do need to not be so, like you said, rigid on the messaging, right? So I don't think it's a tangent. I think it's definitely a different perspective and way to look at it because I do want to say, especially if you are a more seasoned entrepreneur, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, once you're seasoned and you think you have it dialed in, then the answer
more dangerous.
typically is just to throw more money at what you think is dialed in. And, to your point, you're saying, well, you may only be hitting that little bit, in that entire, market space that you could be hitting. Um, so I do wanna touch you about, when do you have to be flexible or when do we know, we've discussed on this podcast before and there have been some articles that I've linked to that talk about, the early adopters and the innovators and what it takes to get to the early majority and how long you have to be out in the marketplace based on price points and stuff before people decide to buy, right? That information is I think generally known to a lot of entrepreneurs that is like the people who stand in line at the iPhone store, that's not the majority of the market, right? For the new
Right.
version, that's gonna just be your innovators, and you can't make too many decisions based on that couple of percentage, right? So as you're getting in there and your stuff is starting to work and you think you have it dialed in, I think the knee jerk reaction is to just, okay, double the marketing budget and keep doing what you're doing. So can
Right.
we kind of explore that a little bit where that can start to have a negative return and really like you're saying being water and not being so rigid, I think is a good sort of philosophy for going into capturing an audience.
Yeah, the other part too is, you gotta remember scaling is an art form,
Mm,
right? You can't just go into a social platform and say, "All right, tomorrow we did 100 today, that was good, we had a good day, do 200 tomorrow."
mm,
You can't scale like that because when you do, what's gonna happen is your lead volume doesn't go up, but your cost per lead will. So you have to scale into these with a little bit of finesse. So usually about a 15% increase every couple of days to get you to a number that works. And what you're doing is you're increasing a little. You're making sure that you can hold your costs, knowing that they'll creep up a little bit.
right.
And once you stabilize again, you increase then, and again you stabilize, and then you increase again, and you get to that double or that triple or that $1 million a month in ad spend. But you don't just walk in on Monday and say, $1 million. You're going to pay too much. You don't know your messaging. You don't know your audience. And you're going to be the entrepreneur that goes, I don't know what happened.
Mhm.
I had all this money and now I have nothing. hmm Because those are the things, right? And the thing that people don't want, and this is our world today, is they don't have the patience to get through those pieces. So in the beginning, to say, "Oh, I've got a 10% marketing budget." That's great when you've got an established brand and you're cooking along at 1 million a month because 10% is a pretty good number.
Right.
In the beginning, everything's marketing. I don't care what you're selling. If you think that you're a roofer, you're wrong. You're a marketer that happens to do roofing.
Okay.
If you think you own a gym and you're selling a gym, you're not. You're a marketer who happens to be marketing fitness. And if you that little flip of the switch changes the way we approach everything that we're doing in regards to our marketing. Um, I I've seen it so many times, where we want it today and that's it. When I started on my own, I left corporate America. I made 50% of what I made corporate America in my first 2 years on my own. My 3rd year, I matched my corporate salary, and my 4th year, I doubled it, which is what we all want to do. You can't, it's very rare. Not saying it can't happen, because I'm sure it has and probably will continue on, the exception, not the rule. It's very rare to come out of the gate and completely replace everything that you had before. So patience, along with that being fluid and listening to the world and what you need to, because they'll tell you what you need to do to sell to them if you're paying attention, right? And a lot of this comes down to, Don, it's really simple, is you ask questions to understand. So when you're on your sales calls, you're asking questions to understand. I actually read a book years ago. It was I can't remember the name of the title, and if I find it, I'll send it to you. But it was really great. It was this female entrepreneur, and she's now coaching a young entrepreneur. And what she said was, "What does your audience really need?" And he came out with the Chat GPT answer, blah 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 blah. And she's like, "That's not a need. That's noise. What do they need?" And the exercise that she had him do, I thought, was nothing short of brilliant. You go and you talk to people in your niche, not as a business owner, as a journalist. You say, "I'm writing a blog post about this business and the marketing practices or the products or services or whatever it is that you do around that segment. What is it that you see is the biggest gap in what you're doing?" So my previous life, I built and rebuilt sales teams in the newspaper space, and I did this in a market once. And as soon as I walked in, and they found out that I wasn't with anybody, because I told them I wasn't, holy cow! You found every problem they had with radio, with TV, with newspaper, with email. It was amazing what you learned when they put their guard down and thought they were just having a conversation and a place to open up. Instead of, "I'm a sales guy, you're my potential customer," you're like this already.
Right.
And you're never really going to tell me the truth, because you think the more you tell me, the deeper in your pocket I'm going. Whereas the other way, there's nothing here. I'm not selling you anything. You're not buying anything. You're just telling me what's going on. And then you can take that back. And now what do I have? I've got all the pain points I need to build a solution to backfill innovator's dilemma. And then I've got everything I need in order to create creative messaging around the actual pain points of the people in the space.
Right.
It's cool, right?
It is, it is. It's interesting. When I start strategic planning every quarter, I always kind of start with the question, why do people give us money? Right? And
Yeah.
it's to get past this idea of, well, they buy this for themselves or they buy a gift or they buy whatever. And it's like, no, it's convenience or it's, pretty packaging or whatever it is. Like, why are people drawn to giving us money in each and every line of revenue from our perspective so that we can uncover some of those things? But going to the customer themselves and saying, why do you give us money? Seems like it would be difficult to do once you have that business relationship. So I find it very fascinating. You were able to go in there and say, "Hey, I'm not with anybody. Tell me what's really going on." So I'm curious if there's a way to do that inside in an already, established business relationship. Because there's only so many ways anymore. Because I think it's been a little overdone sometimes. People can send you surveys and say, "We want your feedback." No, no, I don't want to give you a think. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love it when it's at the top. At least they're now honest and they're like, this survey should only take you 5 minutes, or this survey is only 30 questions, or whatever it is. So at least there's some honesty there now. But how many times have we opened an email for feedback? Your feedback's important to us, but we don't actually know sort of what they're going to do or whether it's really got any sort of legitimacy, I guess, in the business process of that company. So I'm curious as to how, if you have an existing business relationship, you can get the information that you were able to get.
So the first thing I would do is, one is, I think that people ask for those surveys too soon in the relationship.
Mhm.
It's like getting engaged after your second date. We haven't even burped and farted yet, right? Like we got some things to do before we go where we're going. So I think, a lot of times we're asking for things way too soon. And maybe because they're brand new and excited, and just like the beginning of any relationship, oh my God, it's the best part. We're in love, there's no problems. 4 weeks from now, we're gonna butt some heads.
Right.
That's when I need the feedback. I need the feedback after they've gone, oh, wait a minute, right? That's what's valuable. So the other is again, it's an ego stroke,
Mm,
right? If I'm sending it out after you've been with me for 45 seconds, I'm just trying to stroke my own ego. Thank you. Oh, I feel so pretty, right? And then later you realize that maybe I'm not so pretty anymore.
right.
And my personality came out, right? Right? And you're going, "Oh, I don't know." But that's where the value sits. So I think there's a few things we can do. The first is we can put that out 4 months after somebody's working with us instead of 4 minutes.
Okay.
The other thing I think that we could do is we can build a round table, of clients and invite them to this, whatever this little mini event is. And I would get them talking, and I would encourage the negatives because the negatives are failures, and we fail faster, we succeed faster. I think we've been taught from the day we were born in school and everywhere else that failure is bad. Getting an F on a grade is horrible, and getting an answer wrong, you're an idiot and you're not worthy of anything, right? And it's like, whoa, we learn the best when we've been wrong.
Right.
How do you know not to stick a fork in an outlet? Because you did it and you didn't enjoy the outcome. So you don't do it anymore, right? It's
Right.
that kind of thing. And I think that we get in those environments, and as what you would be is you're proctoring that type of roundtable, you can't be defensive.
Yeah.
They're gonna expect them to call your baby ugly. Right, right?
I don't like that though. I
Nobody does.
want to admit sometimes that we have ugly babies or some of our ideas, don't fit the baby, right? The hat's too small or whatever.
Right.
We wonder why they don't buy the add-ons, right? Because the hat doesn't fit or the mittens are too small. No, I get it.
Or you've outpriced yourself.
Were you about priced yourself? Sure.
Right? I think, too, is if we're running bigger organizations and we get out of the street, you start to lose touch with what's really needed, right? And you start to look at P&Ls in a way of increasing your P&L numbers instead of really bringing a value to the street. So one of my biggest complaints ever, and the thing I tell most of the guys that work for us is I still sell.
Yeah.
I still get in and I grind it out. When we've got new products coming, I'm on the street. I build the sales presentations. I'm closing deals. I'm getting my teeth kicked in. I need to know. I need to know if we've hit it or if we've missed it. And we've rolled some stuff out where I've been like, that was priced out of what my market is. But had I not been in touch with it, I'd keep pushing that and grind myself out of business and thinking my sales team sucked. And the reality is I'm 5x what my particular book of business can handle.
Right.
Right. So I think there's a lot that just comes out of opening the communications, again, leaving your ego at the damn door and understanding what you're about to hear is going to save you and help you scale to the next level. And so often we look at it as like you personally are attacking me. No, they're not. You invited them here to do that.
Oh.
Right. Don't go to Fight Club if you don't want to get punched.
Right. Right.
You know, that's really it. It's just a lot of just paying attention. How can I innovate around this? Oh, this is a big hang up for us. What do we do to fix it? Now, some fixes take longer than others because we've got tech involved and other people, and it is what it is, but you always are trying to work to making it better.
Right. So let me ask you about the perception of, because I'm sure there's some resistance going up somewhere in the audience that says, what? I have to light some of my marketing dollars on fire before I get sales back or fire extinguisher comes in. And typically when the company starts to struggle, I have seen and I have actually experienced that typically people cut the marketing budget first. It's seen anymore as, we're in trouble. Where can we trim? We can't trim labor, can't trim, production costs, shipping went up, whatever it is. We're just going to cut marketing. So let's kind of talk about the perception of what marketing dollars are supposed to do, especially if you're saying it's going to be quite a bit in the beginning. We do have to test this out. There's a huge resistance and perception around quote, "lighting my dollars on fire." I actually have heard that,
Yeah.
from somebody who is like, "I just feel like I'm burning marketing money."
And you probably are. right? But if you don't go through this optimization process, I promise you're going to burn way more a lot longer,
Right.
right? You can't dumb luck yourself into the audience. Nobody can afford to do that. Not unless you're Coca-Cola, and it just doesn't matter, right? I've got
Right.
kabillions of dollars. What big brands do is not applicable for you, right? So burning dollars is that maybe you're burning $50 a day for the next 4 or 5 weeks. You got to be able to sustain that. On the other side of the marketing, though, and I do want to talk about this cutting thing because I think it's dangerous, but I think there's one other number we have to understand. It will take a new salesperson 100 live sales conversations to get efficient at what they're doing.
Okay.
So if it takes you um 150 appointments booked to get your salesperson to 100 live actual presentations. And I'm not talking about role plays on the side. That's a whole other conversation. But you've got to understand if it's $50 per appointment, then you're looking at 100 times 50 or 150 times 50 by how many salespeople you have. So we call it 100 to butter, right? To get you as smooth as possible. It's going to take 100 live calls. You have to understand that going into this. So if you're at a point where you're looking to cut, marketing is your blood supply. So, are you going to hold your breath somewhere else in your life if it's not working for you? You'll do that for what? Maybe 30, 45 seconds if you're super cool, a minute. It's the worst thing you can do. You can't cut yourself to profitability. And if you don't believe me, look at the yellow pages, look at the newspaper, look at what's happening in media, look what happens with anybody that at one point was a substantial player. Remember Sears? Oh my God, they were everywhere. It was like the place to go.
Yep.
They're a history story now.
Yep.
And it's all because at some point they started cutting and slicing instead of innovating and pushing forward. So guess what? You're an entrepreneur. It's going to be uncomfortable. And if you're not comfortable being uncomfortable, don't be an entrepreneur because this is not a pretty space. This isn't sexy for a very long time.
Right.
That's what it means. It's ugly and you cry a lot and it hurts your feelings and it does all those things that are horrible.
Yeah.
But if you push through and you rise and you do all that stuff, it is the greatest thing you'll ever accomplish. And in order to get there, though, you can't cut yourself into getting there.
Right.
So you've either hired too many people
Yeah,
or
that was
something's got
that
to go.
that was gonna be my question. So,
Yeah.
you're saying you're going to have to burn through a little bit to tweak, get to the market, get to the message, get to what is working with your intended audience or an audience that is actually working with you that maybe you didn't originally intend, right? So being water, finding those people. But again, it comes down to when are we tweaking and making changes and just kind of pivoting slightly, and when are we doubling down the wrong way and actually overspending on burning cash if we're not, if it's a couple of months, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. I think most of the listeners would agree that it's like, yeah, you have to test the waters, A/B testing or whatever. But then all of a sudden we get to month 3 or month 5. And now we are not only burning through our marketing budget, but we're burning through R&D cash and we're burning through, right? Because we're forcing or trying to force the product or the sale. Maybe there's a mismatch. So kind of what are the canaries in the coal mine when we're doubling down instead of being wise about where we're putting our money?
So a lot of this is you just got to be true to yourself.
Mhm.
You have to look at numbers without the emotion. We have to separate ourselves from the dream of what we want and what we're trying to accomplish to the reality of what we're dealing with. Right? Because if you stay in la la land, you'll spend yourself out of business before you ever make a dollar. It's just going to happen. So, you bootstrap. What do we have to do? And don't think that anybody you hired cares about it as much as you do.
Right.
They don't, and don't ever expect them to because they won't, right? They're going to leave at 5 or 6 o'clock, and you're still going to stay up all night wondering who's going to get paid and who isn't.
Right.
So that's the first thing. So you got to do things that, maybe what you're doing is you're joining your sales team. You're one of your closers for a while and you're finding out where are the misses and where those things are. A lot of this is sleuthing, right? If you haven't sold your products or services, you need to. If you aren't talking to customers prior to them becoming customers, you're missing all the valuable information. It's like if you only, if you don't want to know the truth, you ask your parents, right? How do I look? Oh, you're beautiful, honey. You're always beautiful. Reality is no, you shouldn't wear a pirate patch and crotchless whatever's you're doing right. Like that just doesn't, you know what I mean? It's not going to work. So you need to be real with yourself and you got to get in the trenches. I think those are some of the biggest things. You don't double down until you know that you can, you've got a product that people are like, this is exciting. Price point makes sense. And then you can deliver and fulfill. Once you got all those knocked out, now you turn it up and turn it up and turn it up and turn it up and turn it up, and you don't have to turn it back down again. I think what happens a lot of times is people try to get to that turn up before they've gotten all the pieces in place to make it work. So, pardon me, you have to optimize in strategy in stages.
Optimizing stages. Yeah, and again, I wanna just kind of bring this back around to some of the blocks maybe the entrepreneur maybe having a little bit of an ego, and again, being water means that you can't have
Or the problem.
yeah, you have to yeah, and it's hard to hear that as a group, a lot of entrepreneurs, especially start out with ego because they think I'm bringing something to the world that's great and people want it. But over time, we really do have to kind of separate ourselves from what we're doing. And like you said, not taking it personally. And yes, ugly babies, shoes that don't fit, right? So bringing this around sort of full circle, not doubling down until you have it tested, until you know what you're doing, being willing to hear that you have an ugly baby, which that is so true. We don't always want to hear that it's an ugly baby. And when we hear that it's an ugly baby, then we start questioning whether or not, well, maybe that just wasn't our client. Instead of looking at it and going, yeah, we probably need to redress the baby into something that's more appealing.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Like, so here's the thing, if you're saying these leads suck, this marketing sucks, these customers suck, you have a problem.
I guess
Not
that's
the
kinda you nailed it
not your
in a
customer.
nutshell. Are we doing that in a way? Right.
Yeah. Deflecting is what we do in corporate America because nobody can be wrong, because if you're wrong, you lose your job. Guess what? That doesn't exist here.
Ooh,
You
that's
better be wrong, you better be wrong fast, you better be comfortable being wrong because that gets you to right so much quicker. I wanna be wrong. We launch to be wrong as quick as we can. We always say, "Let's go break it."
yeah.
And that's what we want. We wanna break the marketing system, the sales system, the shopping cart, the support. We wanna break it all because the faster I can break it, the faster I can fix it and make it work,
Right, right.
right?
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that whole deflection thing because again, being water means sometimes when the marketplace changes, right? During COVID, during tariffs, during all the things that can happen outside in the marketplace. Policies change depending on your industry, regulations change. You have no control over it. It just is. But yeah, I mean, staying on top of those things and if the market changes and what you've been doing is no longer having the same result. How common is it to instead of looking at the market and saying we need to adjust, how we because I hear it all the time. It's the algorithm. I'm just gonna throw that out there. It's the algorithm, that's why it's not working anymore, and I probably see 10 to 15 posts a week by other entrepreneurs who say, "I've got the fix for your algorithm. Come work with me and I will fix your marketing in the algorithm." So let's just kinda strip all that away and talk about really what's going on and how we should look at it.
So can there be bad marketing? Absolutely. We see it all the time, right? Can you miss your mark? 100%.
Sure.
Will that put you out of business? I guarantee it will. You have to pay attention. We've got to be present, right? My grandfather said you don't have to know how to do every job, but you have to understand how every job works,
Right.
right? So I know that if I don't know about ads and I'm trying to market my business, buddy, you better get an education on it real quick. You got to have an idea what's going on because there is more snake oil in the digital marketing space than I think there was back in the covered wagon snake oil days.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. And making sure that you're paying attention to it. Deflection, man.
It
So
kills
so
a lot of businesses.
it kills a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, and we deal with this one every single day. I can't tell you, people come ripping into us all the time, like rage spitting, real mad. Like I don't even know what happened. They went from napping to like murder. I don't know what went on there, but like these leads suck. I'm like, well, I sell these leads too, and I'm closing. When I talk to people, I close an 80% clip. So it's not the leads. There are multiple people having success. So if your industry and niche already exists and people are having success and you aren't, guess what it is? There's one factor in there that's different. And I'm going to tell you, it's between back at the front of this chair and my computer screen, right? I'm the problem. And if I can't look at myself being the problem, then I got no right doing what I'm doing. You will deflect yourself out of business, and good for you because everything else had it out for you and you're right. Or you could be the same position and say, no matter what, I'm going to figure this out. And that simple mind shift shifts me from deflecting to ownership and moves me into a different mindset. So now I'm thinking, okay, I'm stuck. What do I do? So when we first started the lead stuff for the life insurance space, I've been building, rebuilding sales teams longer than I've been bald. And what I have learned is it's if the leads are targeted properly, it's not a leads problem ever. It's a sales problem. So knowing that's kind of how that sits, what does that mean we have to do? We have to look at ourselves. We have to look at our sales skills. So how do we do that without taking it so personal? It's pipeline management. Do you know your numbers? Like, do you know from the lead that came in, how many of those you need to call before one of them answers the phone? And when one answers the phone, how many of those you need to get an appointment booked? And of those, how many show up? Of those, how many do I close? Of those, how many do I keep? How long do I keep them? Every step in between those is an opportunity to develop your skills. So if you're going to deflect and blame everything else, good for you. You're going to be exactly where you don't want to be, which is back working for somebody else and probably with a lot of debt. If you want to take ownership, you look at your numbers and you start to understand how pipeline flows. And you start to look for opportunities to increase your skill sets or to optimize your processes or to make your solutions work better. I'm not deflecting anymore. I am problem solving. I am failing forward versus tariffs. Okay, cool. Tariffs suck. What can you do around that? Do you have anything else that you can do and offer while this tariff thing is going on? COVID sucks. You're right, it does. The whole industry, the life insurance industry finally grew up. They joined us in the millennial, right? It's like they should have done it decades ago, but they didn't because they didn't have to. Now you're forced to. So the guys that could sell and girls that could sell pre-COVID, failing horribly after, during, and after because they're not willing to learn and move forward. They're now deflecting. Digital sucks.
Mm.
Does it? Everybody in the world's on it. I don't care where you are. This 5 people at a table, they're all on their phones. They're not even talking to each other. So to say that digital's not where it is, that's not a valid deflection.
Right.
So that's bad deflecting. There's actually good deflecting that you can utilize as a sales strategy. Don, I would love nothing else than to give you that for that price. The problem is my company's not going to let me.
Yep.
Right? I got third party. I can push off that to the bad guy is now I'm deflecting to a bad guy.
Yep.
That's where you can use it to help you. Don't use it to justify failure. And that's what we deal with all day long is people justifying their failure by external forces they have no control over.
Yeah.
I call BS on that. And I don't know if you swear on the show, but I would yell it loud and proud.
I agree. I agree 100% that we are our own worst enemy. And unfortunately, when things get tough or when we see things not working, a lot of times we double down on things because it's painful to look across these different areas and steps and say, I actually don't have skills between point C and point E. I'm only good at point A, B, and C. Which, again, I think that is not only just the ego thing. I think it's also to the place where we should ourselves and say, well, shouldn't I know how to do all this? Well, it's not intuitive. It's not something that they ever taught you. To your point about failing a test is like, okay, you've done it 3 times. Why don't you have it perfect? It's like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. That doesn't work. So this concept of being water, not being rigid, not deflecting, looking at yourself, running tests, taking the time, maybe lighting a few dollars on fire. Really actually underneath all of this, those are the keys to longevity and success.
100%.
Yeah.
And guess what? If you don't have the skills, what do you gotta do? Go get them.
Yeah.
Have you seen YouTube? Like, a perfect example, my wife's an artist, so, they are typically not a mechanical person, right? They think different.
Very right brain.
When the dishwasher wheel fell off and she was just annoyed enough, she went on YouTube, figured out how to fix it, and ordered the part.
Yeah.
She cracks me up now. She fixed the refrigerator, she fixed the dishwasher. She's not a appliance repair person. She's never done that a day in her life, but she had a need,
Yeah.
didn't have the knowledge, didn't let the excuse of that not to keep her from doing it, and just went on YouTube.
Yep.
How easy is that?
Right. Yeah, it's definitely not a lack of information anymore out in
No,
the world.
it's a lack of desire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm tired. Good for you. Everybody who's doing this is tired. This is exhausting.
Yeah.
It really, truly is exhausting. A really good story for you. I was running. I don't know what state I was in, but I was talking to a power company, a gas company, natural gas, and because I was the digital ad guy, they brought in their IT guy because that makes sense. So, and it happens more than it doesn't, right? They're like, "Oh, computers? Yeah, let me get my IT guy." The IT guy looks at me and goes, "I don't know why I'm here." I'm like, "Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. We'll just get through this." He's like, "Okay." Halfway through the meeting, something happened. They had to get up and leave. The IT guy stayed. I said, "So how long you been in IT?" He goes, "Oh, a year." And he's older than me. I'm like, "Oh, cool. What'd you do before?" He goes, "I've worked here since high school."
Oh,
He
wow.
goes, "What I was doing before is I would dig the ditches for the gas lines, and I hurt myself so bad that I can't do the job anymore. And they said, 'Hey, do you want to be the IT guy?'" Right? And he goes, "Yeah." And in my head, I'm going, "Holy crap, you're the IT guy for a power company? And like 2 days ago, you were digging ditches?" I go, "How do you do it?" He goes, "It's really simple. I buy everything from Dell and I use YouTube."
I love it.
And he runs the entire IT department for a power company. If a ditch digger, right, who in theory you'd be like, "That's a ditch digger," can run the IT department utilizing the tools that we all have access to, what's your problem,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we're building AI tools now, and AI is new, and if you're not a programmer, there's a few languages in there that you need to understand. You need a good grasp on Python, JSON. You need to understand, kind of how all that stuff flows together. And we're looking at this, and I'm going, I'm naked here. Like I understand loose enough. I've done a little bit of coding. I'm not a coder, so if anybody is, I apologize now. But I've done a little bit of coding here and there to kind of glue things together. And now I know, okay, this is not going anywhere. We need to really skill up. I just enrolled in night classes. I'll be doing that for the next 20 weeks, and I'll be learning full stack, and I'm gonna come out the other side, and you won't be able to challenge what I can and can't do anymore, and now I know how to hire,
Yeah.
right? So that's an investment that we're gonna and you're all now 5 years ago, I would never have done this.
Sure.
I didn't need to, but the world's changed. You gotta level up. You gotta start getting in there and doing the things you need to do to keep it rolling, so
Yep. Got to be in flow and got to be in water.
you
Yep.
gotta be water. Yeah,
I love
yeah.
it.
Or you can go just get a job,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No,
your
that's always
paycheck, and, take your 2 days off a week and don't worry about it.
that's
There's nothing wrong with that,
no, no.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah, but for those of us who don't want to have that job being water is actually the default way of training ourselves to be so that that is our default setting. And it could take years. I mean, really, but you have to be committed to doing that way. I love it.
Yep.
Love it. All right. So how can people find you? Anybody who's
So,
listening in who's in the insurance space, if you need someone to help you with leads, ads, and sales, where can people stalk you on social media as well?
so you can find us at razorbridge.com. We have a pretty robust YouTube channel that we're always updating at Razor Ridge Leads. Those are probably the two best spots to start. And I know we're wrapping up, and I just wanted to say one last thing as we're kind of heading out. And one, thank you. I appreciate this. I really enjoyed talking with you today.
Me
I
too.
hope somebody gets something out of it. But the truth of the matter is, in today's world, it has never been easier to start and scale a business than it is today. I have bootstrapped this entire endeavor, and we're a multi-million-dollar company. I don't say the number to brag, but I want you to understand, we started with zero. I had 5 or 6 grand in the bank. I was terrified. I got a wife and kids. And, what do? You grind. You can grind yourself into success. You don't need big budgets to do this stuff. Not anymore. Not when I can get to a global audience in my pocket. So, I think that that's important for people to understand is, that there's a million ways to find customers. Paid ads should be the last thing you do. There's a whole slew of things you can do long before you spend $1. You'll spend time, but that's what
Right.
we're here for, right?
I
That's
love
all.
that. Yeah, mic drop. So fantastic. Thank you so much for this conversation and for being here. And really enjoying talking with you. Lots of laughs, which I like. So,
Laughing is good. Don, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening, whoever's listening. Appreciate
yeah,
that too.
absolutely. All right. We'll talk to y'all next time on the next episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. If you want to learn more about me, you can go to DawnKKennedy.com, and you can now check us out on YouTube as well as, of course, any of your favorite platforms that host podcasts. Take care.